This is Jason Marshall and Greg Kinney with ACES Group, and we'd like to show you a file share cleanup migration solution that we put together for the Headquarters Air Force that's been proven and got them migrated over into Office 365, DoD 365. A little bit about ACES Group. We are a Microsoft partner. We're a certified 8A company that was started in 2012. We are a certified SDVOSB with the VA. And we have recently been added to the STARS 3 GSA contract, so it's super easy for you to get to us. Our contact information, myself and Greg. Greg leads our line of business that has to do with all the things related to custom software development. And most recently, he's got a great solution that helps out with migrations that's been used in the Air Force and has been extremely beneficial. You can check us out at acesgroup.com, where we're trying to take that experience I had in the F-16 pod and B-2 pod in the cockpit, and we're trying to bring that to the office, getting technology to work for us. Okay, so we've got a file share cleanup migration process that has really four phases. We start off by preparing all of the files. We're on the shared drives, on the SharePoint, old SharePoint sites, but we really focus, I think, Greg, you focused on shared drives. That's where really the biggest value came with your solution, if I'm not mistaken.
No, that's correct. Yeah, there was an extensive amount of shared drives that had to be migrated, so that's what we did.
Yeah, and so you were able to count all the directories, identify access issues, identify file paths with invalid characters, long file names, paths that were just too deep that wouldn't migrate, duplicates. You did a great job with all their duplicates and the two different kinds, like you created a hash to know if there was a exact, you really knew down to the bit level if the files were duplicates, or if it was just the name that was duplicate. You had to go find out which was the most recent and keep all of them if they were records to show the progression of the development of that file. Then you had this remediate step where you automated the fixes and dropped people's jaws with how fast and how much needed to be fixed. I think that was probably, of all the phases, that was probably the one that was the biggest value for the Air Force folks. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. If you say you need to go fix 10,000 files that are invalid, they just look at you and say, "Oh, well, wait, I can do it. It'll take about an hour and we'll be finished. We'll clean them all up for you." So
yeah,
they like that.
I like that a lot. And then this enhancement that you did where you brought over all the metadata. I've done a lot of knowledge management in the department. It's always fun when you come across a SharePoint document library where somebody moved stuff 2 years ago and everything had the date from 2 years ago, the created date and the modified date from 2 years ago when it was moved. And so even though there's files in there that were like 10, 20 years old, you didn't know which files those were that were that old. And you also, if people had stuff on a shared drive moved into SharePoint and it's not the same directory structure anymore, they can't find it, right? They don't know even how to search for it, but you're actually bringing over the file path from all the different duplicates in saving it in a metadata field. So anybody can type in any folder name. If they can remember just a folder in that path structure, they probably can find their file. Is that true?
Extremely important. Yes. Finding files is extremely important. That's what's going to allow them to keep doing their jobs, and they needed to be able to find their stuff.
So I think that enhanced phase is probably a close second from the remediate for all the help that offered. And then obviously migrating it, they can do a lift and shift with your tool, but they can also very much customize, where they flow stuff to. And you and your team, with all your great knowledge management skills and abilities, are doing a lot of great work for organizations in the department to help them understand where to move stuff and how to organize it better so people can find it and have a good solution for it in the future. So I think it's really neat. The cleanup issues, we've talked about that a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of syntax issues. Like I pulled this article and anybody has a brief can click on it and it'll take them to this page, but you can search for Microsoft, migration to file shares to SharePoint. And there's all kinds of restrictions. Each one of these links right here on the Microsoft site shows tons and tons of things that you got to take care of before you migrate your files. And like we said, you've kind of automated that, all the strict syntax, all the files that just don't comply, whether it's the name or the long folder paths. The industry tools, I mean, we tested some industry tools in JSP when we were on contract with JSP supporting their SharePoint stuff, and we couldn't get them to work. I mean, ShareGate, I've never seen ShareGate not work, but it wouldn't work on the DoD network at all. And then Metalogic, some of the stuff worked, but not all of it worked. And there were several other tools we tested, but none of them would work. And we beat on those things. They had their top guys come in and try to get them work, and they couldn't figure out why they wouldn't work on the DoD networks or on the DoD clients, right? Probably with all of those endpoint security devices causing issues with them. Who knows? But no issues with this, the way you built this solution, because you're using PowerShell scripts and you're using that to automatically fix all this stuff. You're getting through the duplicate files, invalid characters, invalid file extensions, files that block access. Did you find when you went through all the stuff with the Air Force that there was a lot of files that people weren't able to access or that had weird permissions issues?
They did, and some of them were legacy. They were old permissions issues, so we had to get those rectified. So not only we could move those over to SharePoint Online, but I could also run the scripts and analyze it and get things cleaned up. But yeah, there was quite a few block files out there.
Interesting. And it's nice when I'm doing some with a DoD client in the 4th Estate right now. We're cleaning up their shared drives, getting ready for a records inspection. And it's shocking to me how many just empty folders and empty file paths are out there, just garbaging up the environment. Or, and then you find this classic one where you got one file in one folder and you got tons of folders with one file in it. So those little issues are great that, you identify those, and if they want to clean them up, they can. This was the first initial tool that you built in Visual Studio, and you were just running out of Visual Studio, and it was a full-up application, Visual Studio Custom App, but then you went to PowerShell. And you created this PowerShell application, which a lot of people are used to seeing scripts in PowerShell, but some people that are really good at PowerShell that we worked with were very impressed with this, because you'd actually put together an entire, application with PowerShell, which very few people know how to even do, let alone use. So I thought this was really neat that people can just come in here and step through a PowerShell. Here's an example of some outputs in just one of the test scenarios that you ran. Here's an example of the duplicate file analysis script that you run, where it gives you a nice little presentation up front to tell you what the application is about to do, and then you just give it the path to analyze. And then I thought this was really interesting. It's kind of a sample. It's not the worst case scenario by far that we came across or that your team was able to fix, but it's a good representation. Here you looked at 361,000 files and you found 56,000 exceeded the 250 character limit. 346,000 exceeded the file depth limit. 261 bad extensions. Their S drive down here, those are bad file extensions, 18,000. I mean, how are you going to go and fix that by hand, right? And think of all the human error involved in that. I mean, it's just there's no way to do that.
No,
so really, did the Air Force get how much did they appreciate you coming with this tool and save all this time for them?
Well, they appreciate it. We would go to an organization, give them a little a spreadsheet of here's all the problems. You need to go in and fix these. And there's 2 check boxes. Do you want to fix it manually, or would you like us to fix it automatically? So they could decide. Every single one of them came back. There was no check marks, and I want to fix it manually. So, but we wanted them to make that decision, and they had us automatically fix it because it was thousands of hours it was going to save them.
And didn't you also have the ability for like the program, would automatically look for like final in the file name, or it would look for the latest modified date, and it would say, we think this is the most recent version of this file that should be kept. And but if they didn't think that was the right version, they could go and say, no, it's this other version. Then you could feed that spreadsheet back into your program and it would automatically run and fix all that, just like they said, right?
Yes. We put a lot of almost artificial intelligence in there, but giving them the results and let them make a decision when it was over. But we built a lot of that into these scripts.
That's really nice. The migration solution, again, you had a Visual Studio kind of application for a while, and then you went ahead and converted it all to PowerShell. So there's no need for any software approval process. There's no need for people to put it on an APL or go through any process in the government. They can just run this thing in PowerShell, and the security sandbox that PowerShell operates, it's approved. And they don't have to pay, right, cost per gigabit to migrate the content. I mean, that was one of the biggest things. So one of the when we were migrating stuff earlier for JSP, and then we're using Metalogix for the SharePoint, because they did get the SharePoint module to work eventually. And they were charging them by the drink, right? Every time by the gigabit, every amount of content that they moved, they got charged. So people said, oh gosh, this is getting expensive. Let's go ahead and clean up our stuff before we move it, so we don't have all this stuff that we're moving rather than clean up afterwards. But for you, you can clean it. You're actually doing an automated cleanup to a large degree of their stuff before, and it's not costing them anything to move. It's just your team coming in and, you know, running this and helping them to actually restructure their data in a way that, if they want, would be a lot more, I guess it would be a lot better from an industry standard best practices approach for knowledge management. So it seems like just a really, really neat opportunity as the department starts to move to DoD 365 to get with you and your team and figure out how they can leverage you to help them with that migration.
Well, yeah, I mean, the costs were being transitioned down to the organizations, and some of them said, well, this is a huge amount to hit our budget. They did not want to do it. They wanted to self-migrate. Then they looked at these problems, and, you know, we came in with the solution, and the problem went away. They didn't have to worry about spending the hundreds of thousands of dollars to get it done with other tools, and we just came in and did it for them. So they were pretty pleased.
Yeah, that is. I mean, that's just it's a great solution and a great time to have something like this. Records managers, I almost want to give a shout out to them, and the PII folks and the sensitive information folks. You were going through the drives with your tool, and you were identifying all kinds of stuff that the PII folks and we can't talk about some of the stuff that you found in the drives in this particular environment, but it was interesting to me that there was, you know, a lot of really good work that you guys did for those sensitive information folks, whether it was records, PII, PHI, is that right?
Yeah. We did, yeah. There was a lot of spreadsheets with people's names and social security numbers and phone numbers and all kinds of things that really should not be migrated to an open structure up into SharePoint. So we identified those and just pointed those out to the organization.
Okay. Well, Greg, you know, I think you did a great job. I think that the DoD folks, DISA, JSP should definitely reach out to you, maybe get a demo. You guys can get to ACES and Greg. He leads this whole line of business within our company. His team is just, I don't think there's any better out there. Greg was the former CTO of AT&T. I mean, he's just got such an impressive resume. We're so excited to have him on the team, and I'm really excited to have him working to help out the department. So again, you know, we're 8A SDBOSB and we're on STARS 3, so there's lots of ways to get to us. And we're also working on several contracts with Answer. So we have contracts in the Fourth Estate that we can easily just add on to do work that the department needs. All right, I hope this was helpful. I hope this was insightful. And please feel free to reach out to us at any time for questions or more information.